Hi, everybody. I'm PJ Kwong for SGS Live. And in today's session, we're going to be talking about the sustainability of concrete and how to improve it. Concrete is by far the world's most used building material, more than 3 metric tons per person per year. And that's because of its availability, low cost, it's easy to shape, and its strong and durable performance. The drawback is the enormous consumption of raw materials, primarily aggregates and concrete, and of course, overall waste. For this conversation, I am joined by Gert van der Wegen, who's an expert with 40 years of experience in concrete and all its dimensions. He understands firsthand the importance of improving concrete sustainability. Welcome, Gert.
Thank you, PG.
I am so happy to have you here. Okay, let's get started right off the top. You are an expert in the development of new types of concrete and its applications, reuse of waste material as valuable raw materials for concrete, durability and sustainability, concrete regulations, and quality insurance. Can you please explain your role as senior consultant and researcher for SGS Intron?
Yes, it's my pleasure to do so. I participate as a project manager and a materials expert in R&D projects, in studies related to policy on building materials, and also on concrete regulations. And specific topics are durability, which is the lifetime of concrete structures, the use of secondary materials in concrete, and other innovations. I'm also a member or sometimes chairman of several committees on concrete regulations and scientific magazines.
In other words, you're a pretty busy guy. So I'm interested, though, why must we improve the sustainability of concrete?
Well, concrete is the most used building material worldwide, as you already said, more than 3 metric tons per person per year. So that's quite a lot. It's actually more than 10 times we use steel. And it's also responsible for about 6% of the total carbon dioxide, CO2 emission caused by mankind, which is about the same level as all air traffic. So that's quite a lot. Wow. Yeah. And although concrete is a very durable building material, it lasts for many decades. It also produces large waste volumes at the end of life. And that's about 1 metric ton per year per person, and that will even increase in the coming years. And moreover, for the concrete sector, it's very important to improve the sustainability of concrete in maintaining its market position or maybe even widen it.
So, it's interesting because we've been talking about sustainability for a very long time for all of the reasons, that we're mentioning. But I want to know, why are we compelled to do something about this now?
Yeah, the world is changing very fast. The climate change, first it was thought there was climate change, but now I think everyone is convinced it is taking place. The public awareness increases very rapidly. And each year, the so-called Earth Overshoot Day is coming earlier and earlier. And we want to maintain the landscapes we have and don't use all natural materials. Moreover, we have international agreements, pacts like the Agreement of Paris and the Pact of Glasgow very recently, and national programs started. So all people are moving in the right direction. In the Netherlands, we have the Climate Agreement from 2019 and a concrete agreement, which I tell more about later. So there's a lot of awareness, and of course economics also plays a part. The increasing cost of CO2 emission rights will move the industry to see more sustainable production and products. And of course, a green image of a product or a company is also very valued these days.
So it's interesting. It's not just about doing the right thing, it's also the right thing for business. And I just knew that our audience would be so interested in this topic. And if we have a quick look in our comments section, we can see who's joined us. So a big welcome to one and all, and thanks for joining in. So Nigeria, Algeria, United Arab Emirates, Brazil. I saw all kinds of countries represented, and it's so nice to have you here. So thank you. Gert, what are the things that we can do to improve the sustainability of concrete?
Well, we can do a lot. For instance, we have already, and we will further develop and use, of course, binders with a low carbon footprint. The cement industry is now producing low clinker cements. And there are new type of binders, geopolymers, which have a very low carbon emission. So those developments are going on in the material, the base materials for concrete, but also the concrete we already have. We can use it better than up to now. We can renovate concrete constructions instead of demolishing it. We can also reuse parts of concrete construction, so elements or products in new constructions. So a modular building is very important. And the third level to reuse it is at the materials base. And then after demolishing the concrete structure, we can recycle the concrete and make new aggregates and binders for new concrete out of it. So quite possibilities, a lot of possibilities.
I think I heard the word smart crusher. What does that mean?
Smart crusher is a new type of recycling concrete in which not the concrete is crushed and you get small pieces of concrete which can be used as a new aggregate, a coarse aggregate, but this typical recycling, recycling technique, it removes the cement stone, the hardened cement stone from the original, the primary sand and gravel. So you get actually new sand and gravel, and the cement stone is powdered to a very fine fraction, which can be used for new binders or filler in concrete.
This stuff is so interesting. And I know that this has become a priority, especially in the Netherlands. So can you tell me about the Dutch ambition to improve the sustainability of concrete?
Yes, in 2018, the Dutch concrete agreement, in Dutch it's called Betonakkoord, it was signed by 82 companies and authorities. So there was a big commitment from the whole concrete sector and principles. And it aims at a reduction in the carbon dioxide emission by at least 30% in the year 2030, but preferably the reduction should be up to 49%, which is a national ambition. And also, we want to reuse all the waste concrete in 2030 in new raw materials for new concrete. So we have a closed loop for the concrete materials. And also very important, starting from 2018, all concrete producing companies were obliged to use at least 5% volume percent of their natural aggregates, replace them by recycled concrete aggregates. So a lot of commitments and ambitions.
That's the thing. It's about the willingness, the commitment, as far as the stakeholders. So for our audience, if you're just joining us, I'm speaking with expert Gert van der Wegen about concrete sustainability. And I just want to remind you that there's going to be a Q&A at the end of this interview section. And if you want to pose a question to our expert, just put it in the chat below and we will try to get to it. But at the moment, it's back to Gert. So the CO2 emissions, as I understand it, for Dutch concrete are already very low at less than 2%. Is further reduction possible?
Well, it's always possible, but it's really a challenge because you already are at a very low level. And because there are some changes, we had one cement producing factory in the Netherlands, but that stopped producing 2 years ago. So now we have to import our clinker, and alone by the transport of that clinker, there's an increase of 3% in the CO2 emission. So we had some drawbacks, but still we think we can achieve the goals we have stated by using new type of raw materials. The cement industry is working really hard to produce new low clinker cements with other cementing materials as secondary materials in it. And as already mentioned, the geopolymers, which have a very low carbon footprint, they are coming up in the Netherlands. A lot of effort is done in developing those at the market scale. And so also the reuse of concrete constructions elements is one of the items which can have much benefits in the improvement of the sustainability.
You said something that sort of caught my attention just a few minutes ago, and that was about closing the loop. So I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit about the reuse of old concrete in new concrete.
Yes, we can. In the Netherlands, we have a lot of recycling companies. So a lot of the construction and demolition waste is reused, actually 95%, but most of it is going in foundation for roads. And the reuse of the concrete part of it, we want to use it, all of it in concrete. And by doing so, the quality of the recycled concrete aggregate has to be improved. And that can be done by, as already mentioned, by the smart crusher, who actually cleans the primary sand and gravel from the cement stone. So you get actually the original natural aggregate back. And that innovative recycling technique, and there are 2-3 others also in development in the Netherlands, that will be a major step for the closing the loop. And of course, if you use new materials, they have to fit in the concrete regulations. And most of the concrete regulations are based on what we did decades ago. So we have to update them too. And that already occurred in the Netherlands. So if you have good materials, recycled materials, you are also allowed to use them in high percentage in new concrete.
It's interesting that you say this because obviously this issue is much bigger than just the Netherlands. So you talked about sort of accepting new concrete regulations, but I want to know, will the market accept these new innovations? How does that look to you?
Yes, the construction sector is a traditional sector. So if you come with innovations, usually it takes 5 to 10 years before they are widely accepted. But to promote this, to speed this up, there's a lot of activity stimulated by the government. For instance, exposure funds, in which the new concrete types, the innovative concretes, are exposed to a harsh environment, North Sea environment, and we are monitoring the performance of those new concretes in those exposure farms. And as already mentioned, the additional concrete regulations, and then not based on composition but on performance of the concrete, they stimulate also the use of innovative concretes. And in the Netherlands, the leading principles in the public sector, for instance, Rijkswaterstaat and ProRail for the railway constructions, they stimulate those new innovative concretes. And by their doing so, they also stimulate the private market. And of course, we have the concrete agreement, which is supported by many industries, but also authorities. That also stimulates the acceptance of those new innovative concrete compositions.
You know, at the very beginning of this interview, in your introduction, I spoke about your 40 years of experience in this area, which includes SGS Intron. So, which SGS Intron services are and were provided within this framework?
Well, a lot of them, and we are very happy that we could play such a leading role in these developments, and still do. It started, of course, with policy. There were a lot of studies supporting the aims and which we want to achieve with this concrete agreement, and we did a lot of work on that field. And also not only making the studies and the policy, how you call it, consultancy, but also had sessions with market so that the information developed can also be shared with all stakeholders. That's also very important. We drew up additional or new regulations for stimulating all these developments. And of course, the R&D, in R&D work to develop innovative concrete for the industry, and not only from a concrete technology point of view, but also from environment, the leaching, circularity, life cycle analysis, etc., was also covered by us. And actually for the exposure farm at the North Sea, we will monitor for 10 years, each year, how the new concretes behave. And at 5 times, we actually drill cores out of it and research them in the laboratory, how its behavior, its performance is. So we can actually demonstrate that these new innovative concrete will be adequate for our industry, for our building environment.
You know, it's just huge. That's all I can say. That's the word for it. Worldwide, huge kind of large scale applications. It's all here. By we, I mean me. I have one more question for you before we get to our Q&A. And for those people who would like to leave a question, please do so in our chat box below. Okay, one final question. Here we go before the Q&A. Gert, I want to know, what is your personal opinion on this topic?
Well, thank you for asking this, because I'm really committed with these changes. I think there's no way back. We need to improve our sustainability, especially for concrete, because my heart is within the concrete sector. I think this decade, concrete will change fundamentally. Not small changes, no, it's really a fundamental change, and it's necessary because the built environment cannot cope without such a construction material. It's very important to have these constructions to have a good life, but it has to stay reliable too. We cannot change concrete and see in 10 years that the lifetime is decreased from, say, 100 years to 50 years, because then it's not sustainable either. So a lot of changes, and it is and it will stay a dynamic and challenging time in which knowledge and out-of-the-box thinking is of prime importance. And I think that SGS Intron provides these competences and has a leading position as a service provider in the Netherlands in this field of work. And actually, what is developed in the Netherlands is also partly is also partly integrated in other countries. They take parts in their own regulations and ambitions. And so we, as SGS Intron, are very proud to be part of all these changes and work that we can do.
I think you should be proud. I mean, it's great progress. So as promised, we're going to get to our Q&A, and I know that you are okay with a couple of extra questions. So let's start with the first one. We've been talking a lot about concrete sustainability rather, and I want to know how the testing that SGS Intron can play into this.
Well, as already mentioned, we do a lot of work in the laboratory, in the testing of routine testing, but as well in the R&D development of new concrete compositions, new raw materials for concrete, also in regulations, but the monitoring in practice and the demonstration, the assessment, and thereby demonstrating that these new concrete innovations really can replace the old ones. That is, I think, our key. Yeah.
Okay. So this next question, we talked a little bit about the 2030 deadline that was created to reduce CO2 emissions. What is the plan to reach that goal?
Ambitious, but achievable.
Okay.
Actually, there is also policy documents how we will reach the goals set for 2030, and taking in account the position we have today and what is needed to decrease the carbon dioxide emission each year, and to increase the circularity of the concrete. And the whole concrete sector is working on that. So each category of concrete products is looking to their own improvement possibilities. And you always have companies who are leading in innovation, and other companies can learn from those companies, those leading companies. And in that way, we think that we can keep up the pace. And of course, there are always changes. For instance, I mentioned that we have to import the cement clinker from Belgium, and therefore the CO2 emission for the Dutch cement is increased. But by using other materials, for instance, like the geopolymers, we can decrease the carbon dioxide. And also by other ways of designing concrete structures or reuse concrete elements. So we have to take steps on a lot of areas to get to the main goal, that reduction. Yeah.
You know what? Ambitious is absolutely right. But I think that this is, as you say, when you've laid out the plan, it's totally doable. Last question. I don't really know, what is Earth Overshoot Day? And I'm sure some people in our audience don't know either. So can you please define it?
I will try so. Actually, the Earth itself, nature, is generating materials by itself. But we use a lot of them. And so there is a day in the year that a specific country or the Earth, the whole community as a whole, uses up all the materials the Earth generated in that year. And that day, for instance, if it's the 1st of June in last year, it can come earlier each year. Up to now. So it's before the 1st of June, actually saying that we use faster and faster the materials the Earth provides us. So we are actually doing the wrong things.
Yeah, we need to be getting later in the year, not earlier in the year, correct?
That's right. That's
Gert,
what I meant to say. Thank you.
no, that you said it perfectly. Are you kidding? Gert, I want to thank you so much for joining me today about concrete sustainability. What a great session. I'm looking forward to the ways in which we are going to improve concrete sustainability. So thank you.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
So everybody, we are so glad that you were here to join us for this very interesting and informative session. As always, if you want to learn more, you can either leave a comment in our comment section in the chat box below, or of course, feel free to visit our website, sgs.com. I'm PJ Kwong for SGS Live. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.